And that's truly the beauty in books, the ability to teleport, to transport to different places, see different things from your own living room, even from your comfy chair. Books were something that you related to school. They were given to you by the school. Bookstores were never in my field of vision, reading anything that I wasn't told to read, made to read for a grade. Made it in those first few years, but then something clicked. When you park by the mall, you give yourself the opportunity to go to the bookstore twice. Oh shit. When I was growing up, cool had absolutely nothing to do with books, okay? You wasn't cool because you had books. Books were something that you only really related to school. The teacher assigned you a book and you tried not to lose it because your mother couldn't afford. I was just thinking of another reason that I love books, because books are an alternative to therapy. You know, of course you have your self-help books like your Ayanla Van Zandt, Fix My Life, and all those kind of books of positive affirmations, books that help people get through and make people feel better about what they're going through, the life that they're living. So, think about it. If you have a story about a book that's based on truth, that is an example of art imitating life, right? It's all in the books. If I went to prison and I had to choose between a TV and a book, I'd choose the book every time. Yeah. If I could have a steady rotation of books, as many different programs as there are, give me a book for every program that's on TV. I'd spend my days in the library. Will new books come in? Probably not. But what are the chances that you can get through the whole library full of old books? I guess that would depend on how much time you got. Everyone would be fighting over the TV, earbuds, or the phone and all that stuff, But no one's going to fight you for the book. I guarantee you. No one's going to fight you for the book. When I began buying books and really began to define and say, okay, I like this, I don't like this, I love this author, I don't like this author, I was really just, it was a phase of just new books. I had to acquire new books. Everything seemed new when you don't have books. You don't, for me, I didn't really appreciate a book that you can just, that you can just open up and the book already has character. Older books already have character, so you look at it, you can see it may have a cracked spine and stain. All of these things a book may have. King George IV, Queen Charlotte, but you don't know the history of the book. You don't know until you start to research, and then you kind of realize, okay, and this is the thing for me. Okay, like take this book for instance. This book is Pearl S. Buck, Command the Morning. I look in here and I see from 1991. Make sure I'm covering up. I see a phone bill from 1991. The original phone number, the 309 area code, which is the area code I live in. And I can see a detailed list of charges. So I can see Denversville. I see 17-minute call to the Philippines. Cost $25. Okay, so yeah, back in the day, 17 minutes on the phone costs you $25. And I don't need to look at some book of stats and quotes, because I already know. I'll pick up books from anywhere. I don't care if it's the Goodwill. I don't care if it's the Salvation Army store, which actually, let me close this thing. Actually, picking up books from the Salvation Army store is one of the best things, because it's always like these really old books. I found copies of Huckleberry Finn, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and Tom Sawyer, and Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin, all at the Salvation Army store. So, I wasn't athletic, and I didn't rap, and I didn't have fancy clothes. So the idea of cool wouldn't work for me. But I felt like I was just as worthy of praise. You guys check out my family. Maybe. Just got these shoes. Can you guys see them? I can turn them around. Just got these. And yes, they were on sale. There we go. The Book Lovers Library. Books are vessels. Books can transport you to places that you didn't even know that you wanted to go. Things that you may never see otherwise. The first thing I had to write, and the first teacher that told me that I could write, I was in 4th grade. The teacher, his name was Mr. Garrett. We had to write on Martin Luther King. And I remembered bits and pieces of Martin Luther King's speech. because I don't even know. I don't even know how I really got this foundation, the foundation that I had on a mindset that told me that Martin Luther King was, this great man fighting for freedom. I knew that he had fought for the freedom, but in my mind, he might as well have been Jesus Christ. Because racism was there. It was a part of everyday life, and it was apparent back then when I was a child. It was very much apparent. So we had the whole period to write this page, and I just picked it up and I seized that moment. I was like, okay, I'm gonna write. I wrote, and it was very, very impassioned. I wish I had it. It was very, very impassioned, and so much so that he put this down. So much so that he had the so much so that he stopped the class to read it, because he's standing over me, and he was very intimidating, man. He's standing over me, and he's like, kind of walked over like, you're done already? Mr. Garrett was no nonsense. Mr. Garrett would take the pedal to you. So he's standing over me, and I can just remember him. I don't know where he is, but I can remember, the thing I can remember about him were very few things. Superficial mostly. His wife was a teacher, and all the boys in school thought that she was, was beautiful. And the fact that he wore shirts and ties and literally wore suits every day and drove a nice car. Don't remember what it was, but I know it was a nice car. So yeah. Mr. Garrett, and he stopped the entire class and he read it out loud. I could hear snickles from kids, but at that moment, it was the first time I had received the attention that I was seeking, and I felt like a young writer. I guess that was that moment of motivation that I think that a lot of kids probably don't receive in school, that aha moment. And then it happened again in high school with the drama teacher, only because I knew the text, and I wasn't able to truly articulate critical thinking or analysis or anything like that at the time. I wasn't able to articulate those things, but they would come. It kind of made me, in retrospect, it was kind of me. I think about those moments when I read Richard Wright, because that's the kind of author that I saw him as being that young, black, impassioned person, daring to navigate a field, a life, an endeavor so huge that it was considered almost ludicrous, So yeah, Miss Bates, she was very, very instrumental, because she taught me we had to keep a journal. And I wrote a story. I was killed by a killer marshmallow. And it was like everything that I started turning in as far as writing went, it was going well. Creative writing class, all that stuff was going well, and I was just like, that's interesting. I know that I can write. It was almost like it wasn't something that I took with me past high school. After high school, I wasn't interested in it. I had got accepted to Columbia. I'll never forget this. Got accepted to Columbia, but of course, I had a poor family, and we didn't know anything about like grants and all of that stuff. It just wasn't, those kind of things just in that time just weren't in the cards. And there's so much into it. Just think of this book. It's road work. This is Stephen King, but he was written under the pseudonym Richard Bachman. A lot of authors wrote novels under these pseudonyms so they can try something else, experiment. It's almost like now when we test the algorithm or create a separate channel or do different things like that, we have books like self-published books. Think about it like that. Books that we write ourselves, that may even hold more truth than books that were used in old textbooks. This is an old textbook. Where are my glasses? Okay. This is John Bach McMaster's. This is a school history of the United States. From revised copy 1916. But check this out. This says Mr. Marcus Harold Cox, age 12, 1918, 7th grade. So this book was definitely used to teach children. It was used to teach children, and it's talking about the Mayflower and really telling the story of these pilgrims that landed on Plymouth Rock, and it talked about their journey and their discovery of America. So you got all of that in this book, and it's telling a story of immigrants, travelers aboard a ship coming to an occupied area, but teaching that they discovered it. Their discovery, not the discovery. So you would automatically think as a child that Christopher Columbus discovered America. It's still being taught that way to children. Really? But then we have a book like this by Zora Neale Hurston, Barracoon. In 1927, Zora Neale Hurston traveled to meet Cujo Lewis in Plateau, Alabama. I believe it was Plateau. Yeah, in Plateau, Alabama, and had a conversation with him and listened to his story, because he is documented as the story of the last quote-unquote black cargo. Now, this is truth. This is actual truth. Well, this is not fiction. This is fiction. The story of John Brown's raid, the story of Harper's Ferry, all throughout this book, it was an insurrection, a slave insurrection, but it was told from a point of view to suggest that these foul troublemakers, rebel rousers and troublemakers, that's how they were used to describe people trying to gain their freedom. So, of course, that's the power that's in the book. You understand? That's the power in the book, because you're growing up, and how can you have any empathy, any sympathy, anything when the story is told from one POV? The narrative is the narrative that society wanted you to have at that time, but it still remains, and you can't cover it up. Just like you try to erase history, you can't erase it if it's in a book. You can only attempt to destroy it or ban it. But if you have the book, you have, just like now, you can alter a photo. You can take a person out of a photo, you can put someone in its place. But you can't do that with the physical, with the negative. You can't fake the negative. We have authors like this, like Freud, who was Jewish, so his book was banned by the Nazis. They couldn't read anything by Sigmund Freud. And Sigmund Freud was banned in the US because of the overt sexual connotations in nature in his writing. Let's say you were fooling with your house, and you got on the internet and you realize all of a sudden now how much you love plants. You didn't realize how much you really love having plants in the house, right? Okay, cool. You love plants, but you get them in the house and now you have no idea what to do with them. What about this book? Hilton Carter Living Wild. Look how beautiful this is. I'm just going to open up to random pages. Well, I don't want to tear it. Open up to a random page. How beautiful is that? Look at the cover. Look at him sitting there chilling. Okay, that's the beauty in books. Yeah, you can go on YouTube and find a video of someone who's decorated their house, and of course this stuff is going to stay there until it's not. See what I mean? The stuff will be there until it's not. But the books, as long as you have the books, the physical books, the old books, the young books, the new books, even something like this, The Story of O by Pauline Riage, which is not her real name. It was just a name that she had to write under, because back in this day you couldn't write anything you wanted. This book was originally published in Paris, France. Okay, I'm not going to go through the whole story, but this work was banned. She could have been imprisoned just for writing a story like this, which today you can go on Instagram right now, and what you can see on Instagram is 15 times as bad as what was written in this. Yet it was years and years before she could even cop to owning this book. They said her work was closely tied to the Marquis de Sade. I'm not even going to touch on that. And there's so much more. Think of like Mark Twain, Adventures of Tom Sawyer. I actually have a copy. I don't have it with me right now, but The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which is a banned book. Let's talk about banned book. Those are the books that they don't want you to have access to. They're banned in schools. They're banned in libraries. And we're talking about Mark Twain. We can still call him one of the fathers of American literature or whatever that was. But check it out. Then we have a retelling of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, told from the point of view of Jim the Slave. And this is a book, 2024 book by Percival Everett, who won the National Book Award. And this book is a retelling from the point of view of the slave. And it was an amazing book because it gave a voice to the slave who did not have much of a voice in the original. It was said that Abraham Lincoln called this book among the catalysts of the Civil War. That's the beauty in books. It captures a moment in time. this beautiful book I picked up from a collection. Okay, where is that? Okay, think of this. John Lennon and Yoko Ono, right? We all know that John Lennon was assassinated, right? Where is it? Where is it? Okay. We all know that John Lennon was assassinated, if you didn't know, in 1980 by, it's believed to be an obsessed fan. You know, many believe that that wasn't it. It was his political views, but be it as it may, it was in front of a building called the, it's like it was a hotel. It was the Dakota. And then Ira Levin writes this novel, which is Rosemary's Baby, which I happen to have a copy of. Don't quote me on when this book was written. The copyright was 1967. Okay. What was interesting is this building, and the building in the story was called the Bramford. It was called the Bramford, and it was in this book it was based on the same hotel. You know, it wasn't the same hotel, different name, same building, different name given to it in this story. So, you know, amazing things that you can find in books if you allow yourself an opportunity to go beyond the pages, so to speak. You know, I have books on war from both sides. Vietnam. I have books by Japanese authors that tell their side of the story. Who wants to be caged up in a world where things are told only from one point of view? Unfortunately, that's the world that we actually live in. One of the most important things that this country does is one of the most powerful things that happens in a society is the control of information, the flow of information. What information is being given and what information is being held back. Think about World War II. During World War II, you know, bombs were falling, okay? World War II. Okay, World War II. We had bombs falling. Vietnam, we had our boys and girls over there fighting. We had our boys and girls over there fighting a war, and on television it was just showed to boost morale, only positive images, staged images. But you can also see a lot of truth, photography, you know, with actual photos. You know, if you can get a hold of it, you know. So there's a lot of information that you can get from books, and over time, while the story can be altered to fit, molded to fit what's going on in society, if you still have the original, that's what's important. That's why I love books. I want to thank you for spending some time with me, for watching this video. I hope that you like it. If you did like it, hit the like button and hit the hype button. Hype this video up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I invite you to subscribe. I want to thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace. Now I have to put all these books away. No, seriously, I have to put all these books away.